Welcome to Guardians of Gaia, connecting people and planet, our collective home where all life exists in a common ecosystem. I'm Megan Edwards, and on our program, we explore the environmental world and learn how people are working together to save our planet and fight the system that is killing it. We've been looking at topics in our program through the lens of climate change and talking about how we can adapt. Adaptation to climate change is vitally important for us South Africans because we are a global hotspot and we are hit very hard by climate change conditions. Because so many people in our country depend on the natural environment, the land and the ocean for their livelihoods, there is an urgent need to take environmental action to build a more sustainable world. The reality about global climate change can make us feel powerless sometimes. We may not want to take action or know how to, and it may feel like nothing really makes a difference. In this episode, we will present people and organizations that are taking environmental action for environmental and social justice. This is both to protect the planet and its resources, and also to protect the people's rights and livelihoods. South Africa is the 30th driest country in the world, with increasing droughts driven by climate change. Let's have a look and see why water access and management is essential to ensuring sustainable supply.
Imagine a world without water. It isn't hard to do. Water is ours. It's time to fight for water sovereignty. Millions of South Africans, especially those living in the red zones on this map, know what it's like to be short of water. It's not pleasant. We can't survive without water. Nothing can. Water is life. The water cycle on Earth is the circulatory system of the planet. If it gets contaminated, the whole organism is threatened. Any impact, anywhere, impacts on the whole cycle. Across the planet, nearly 1 billion people struggle daily to access clean, safe water. And here in Southern Africa, especially in the red zones, the situation is dire. We are a low rainfall region, with rainfall levels far below the world average. In 2017, these were even lower, with record lows in the Western Cape. Nature is in trouble. We seesaw from severe drought to flash flooding and back again. The work of bees, the migration of birds, the spawning of fish, the survival of wild creatures, all life on Earth is affected. Human communities are debilitated. The lack of water leads to rising food costs that impact heavily on the poor. Why? The main causes are capitalist profit-making, mass consumerism, financial speculation, debt, rampant industrialization, corporate-controlled agriculture, deforestation, and the extraction and burning of fossil fuels. These activities have led to mountains of trash, water pollution and fecal contamination, acid mine drainage, pesticide and fertilizer poisoning, soil erosion, landscape degradation, and ultimately to climate change. Existing water infrastructure can't deal with perpetual increases in urban effluent and pollution from chemical-based farming and industry. Most of our clean water is held in dams on farms, to which the public does not have access. While the toxic legacies of colonialism and apartheid have impacted on water access, South Africa is not a water-conscious country. Those who have water waste it. To make matters worse, 40% of our drinking water is lost through leaky pipes due to ineffective water management policy. The state has to become more effective in planning, investing in, and democratically managing water resources. Only 46% of South Africans have clean drinking water in their households. The 54% who don't endure the indignity of water injustice. Poor government service delivery makes matters worse, opening the door to privatization. The business sector sees privatization as the answer to all South Africa's woes, but privatization widens the gap between rich and poor. Water is or should be the common property of all. The cost of privatized water would hit the poor very hard. We have to fight back, reclaim our water commons rights, protect our water resources, entrench the principle of water sovereignty, and successfully oppose water privatization. Otherwise, water is in danger of becoming just another commodity that poor people can't afford.
Our Constitution gives us all the right to water, and it is the responsibility of the national, provincial, and local governments to monitor and deliver water through municipalities. But how do we take action to make sure that government delivers water for all? Up next, we feature clips from Sense Maker Project documentary. Let's watch and see what happened when university researchers and community water activists actually partnered and came together to collect data on water delivery services.
So one of the important principles for me when thinking about resilience of cities to climate and water stress is the importance of bringing in multiple voices and understanding the different perspectives and stories of how we might try and respond to the challenges. And so it was a good time then to bring in community voices and perspectives. And so I'd been working with EMG, the Environmental Monitoring Group, as an NGO for a while, and they were working closely with the Western Cape Water Caucus. And so that work then led into the Sense Maker, where we worked more specifically on collecting these stories.
The Environmental Monitoring Group, which is based in Cape Town, really its projects are to facilitate a respectable or a respectful relationship between people themselves and the environment. We also believe that power needs to be questioned and distracted so that it responds fairly, not speaking on behalf of communities, but creating spaces where those in power come to communities and the conversation happen. We believe with that, then some respect and mutual understanding is possible.
So basically, the whole process had two steps. The first step was designing the data collection and then going out and collecting stories. And then the second half of the project was the second workshop, analyzing the data and synthesizing the insights, and then going out and also then sharing the insights and feeding back stories to the communities where we had studied. But also using the findings from this project to start a dialogue between the Water Caucus and the City of Cape Town. We wanted to work with the Water Caucus in deciding what type of questions are we going to ask. So we decided to have a co-design process where we design the actual data collection tool together. We agreed that it would be better for the Water Caucus members to be the ones collecting the stories. But I think that phase was really critical, and it's part of what we then in hindsight see as an empowering outcome of the project, that you gain that confidence. It's not just the technical knowledge or the specific skills on how you ask questions, but it's just like knowing that I can claim this identity as a researcher now. I can step into that role.
And to me, it was a learning process. And yeah, there was also painful moments, because when you go out there to do the research and you see the problems of the people.
Ezokubana uyuthetha nomuntu uyumcacisela ukubana njengolapha emakhaya uyandazi mos nami ndinale meter box unayo ithini wena eyakho into atsho umuntu avule isifuba sakhe uba ubona ba umuntu ebexakwe indawo anothathethe kuyo and ezinye zezongxaki zehla kuthi singabaqokeleli bezidatha. Akuthethi ukuthi mna as uba ndi-involve kwi-sense maker mna andinayo, mna andichaphazeleki kule meko yenzekayo eKhayelitsha. Ndingumhlali, indichaphazela mna kuqala.
The city of Cape Town actually came during the final day, and the Water Caucus presented the preliminary findings. They performed some of the stories that they had identified as really critical and important in the findings, and they could show that, look, here are over 300 stories that we have collected from these communities, and this is the story that those stories tell. This is the message that those stories communicate.
One of the things that came out of the Water Caucus was that they wanted to learn tools to document their experience, because they have stories to tell of their own experience, but they haven't necessarily been trained in research or collecting data, and so they saw that as something important. And I think that also aligned with the city that says, yes, we want to engage with NGOs and citizens, but how do we engage one-on-one? So if NGOs can come with data that is what they see as robust, then they are likely to be interested. And we saw that that was the case. So at the end of SenseMaker, the city officials who were present at that workshop were really interested in this data.
I think our team from the city were so impressed by the way that ordinary people had presented so professionally the information that they had researched and provided. I think it was a very empowering exercise for many of the community members. And it really shone through their dedication, really the kind of the good work that they'd done with the academic partners. It was very impressive to see.
We were actually surprised at how interested they were to learn more about the qualitative component. It really showed that they saw the value in having narratives that tied together the different aspects of a problem. And the type of information that the City of Cape Town normally collects through their customer satisfaction surveys doesn't really capture that. It's more of a tick the box or yes and no questions, and you don't really have a chance for the city to capture these richer narratives. And what the findings also did was that it really created a platform for the city and the community organization to have a dialogue. And both the Water Caucus and the city representatives talked afterwards about how unusual it was for them to have such a productive discussion. And usually it doesn't really go anywhere, it's very confrontational, and everyone is trying to just communicate their message. But here was almost like a neutral artifact. It was a set of results and findings that both sides could discuss, and no one really disagreed with them. Everyone knows that these problems exist. But when you have a set of data that you can discuss as equals, it created a really different atmosphere and more collaborative environment. And that was really cool to see.
A lot of beautiful things happened. We see empowered citizens here having been able to produce data scientifically in partnership with credible institutions.
This is an unusual situation because usually what happens, researchers come from institutions of higher learning and come and gather information and present that information to officials and other academics. Now it's ordinary people on the ground gathering this evidence and data on the ground in collaboration with the institution of higher learning and discipline and presenting to officials. This proves that knowledge is not only possessed by a certain sector of the society.
You're watching Guardians of Gaia, connecting people and planet. And on our program today, it's really about taking action and connecting people and planet to build a more sustainable world. After the break, we look at how people's organizations are taking environmental action in court in the fight for social and environmental justice. So stay tuned to Guardians of Gaia, connecting people and planet.